everyone! Today I thought I'd give you an overview of the new digital SAT and what to expect from it, since there's not a ton of information and resources out there for those of you caught in the middle of the transition. Before we get into it, this video, as always, is sponsored by Prep Scholar. If you're worried about not having as much content as you'd want to study for the digital SAT and want a paid resource to supplement your prep, they are the ones that I'll recommend for that. Their new digital SAT course just got launched very recently, and if you check out the link in the description below, you can get $50 off that or their ACT online course. Anyway, let's get into the video. So, the digital SAT is College Board's new version of the SAT, taken entirely on an electronic device instead of on paper. It's already been launched internationally, and as early as spring 2024, it'll completely replace the paper version of the test in the US as well. So, what should you bring on test day? Well, you should bring your testing device and a charger, but you might not have access to an outlet, so your device should be able to hold its charge for at least 3 or 4 hours. This device can be a Windows or Mac device, an iPad, or a school-managed Chromebook. It can't be a phone. It also has to be able to connect to Wi-Fi and have Bluebook, College Board's testing application, installed on it. If you don't have a device that's going to work and you can't borrow one easily from your school or a friend or family member, you can request one from College Board as long as it's 30 days before your test date. There's a link in the description with more detail about devices you can bring and more information on doing that. So, like the old SAT, you should also bring your photo ID, your admissions ticket, a pencil or pen for scratch work, and an approved calculator from their list, which is also linked in the description. You're also allowed to bring an external mouse for your device, and you have to bring an external keyboard if you're going to use an iPad, but you're not allowed an external keyboard for laptops. Alright, now that the logistics are out of the way, what's actually going to be on the test? Well, it's composed of 4 sections, like the old SAT, but there's 2 reading and writing sections and 2 math. You get 32 minutes to answer 28 questions for each of the reading sections, and 35 minutes to answer 22 questions for each of the math sections. This means you'll have just over a minute on the reading sections to answer each question, and a little over a minute and a half for each question on the math section. The reason they're split into 2 of the same sections like this is because the sections are adaptive. The first reading and math section will give you a mix of question difficulties, and then based on how you do on that, it'll tailor the next section to you. This is one of the things that allows it to be shorter than the old SAT. For example, if you answer all the linear equations questions correctly on the first section of the math, they may not feel the need to retest you 2 or 3 more times on the next math section, and can instead give you some harder concepts. This might mean you have to plan a little bit differently to score higher. You need to be doing as well as you possibly can on the first section of the math and the reading, or else you might not even be given the opportunity to get the harder questions and score higher on the second sections. I'm still new to the digital SAT too, and I'll have to play around with the practice tests a little bit before I can give any super conclusive advice, but generally the same test-taking strategies will still hold, and it seems relatively fair and accurate from what I've experimented with so far, though we'll see. The main thing is time. Since the timing is different than the old SAT, it takes a little bit of getting used to. When I was playing around on Bluebook, the countdown timer made me really paranoid that I was going to run out of time, and it made me rush through the questions a little faster than I should have. Good thing you can turn that feature off. They do give you slightly less time on the reading section than they used to. The math section you get a little more time per question for. The good news is you'll be able to save time on the whole thing for a ton of reasons, so hopefully that'll even out. The first big time saver is there's no more long passages on the reading and writing sections. Instead, they'll give you just a short little paragraph, or even sometimes like a bulleted list, and you'll have to answer a very specific question about that. Not only do you not have to leaf through a whole bunch of irrelevant information anymore, but it's also much harder to infer things that aren't there, since there's less information to extrapolate from. On the math section, the biggest time saver is going to be Desmos. Desmos is an online graphing calculator that you can type equations into. I'll make an in-depth video on how you can utilize this and become super speedy at the math section, or at least check your work. But essentially, if you know the theory behind a question and you know exactly what to plug in, you don't have to worry about making any more careless algebra mistakes ever again, and this can turn a 2-minute problem into a 20-second one. This, in my opinion, is a lot better than just allowing people to use graphing calculators on the math section, because 1, most graphing calculators take forever to graph, and it's sometimes easier to just do it by hand by the time they graph something. Desmos graphs stuff almost instantly. And 2, not everyone has access to graphing calculators, and not everyone has the same model of calculator that has the same features. This is going to really help level the playing field for people, which I think is really good. I still recommend bringing a calculator that you're comfortable with to do any quick math, since that's a little bit less intuitive to do on Desmos if you're not used to it. But honestly, I think just using Desmos as much as you can is going to be a lifesaver. Alright, now how do you prepare for the DSAT? Well, for resources, College Board has released 4 paper practice tests and 4 online practice tests. The paper ones are slightly different and longer since they're non-adaptive, so you'll have to adjust the timing you give yourself to test based on what College Board says. The ones available on Bluebook are the ones that are in the exact same format of the digital SAT that you'll be taking. So if you only have time to take a few tests, I definitely recommend to prioritize those so you get a feel for Blue Book and the exact timing and pacing you'll need to develop for the real thing. If you want to know about more resources available, go watch my digital SAT resources video. You can also learn more about how exactly I would prepare for this test. I've also launched a new shorts series going over every digital SAT question there is. I'm posting those on Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the foreseeable future until I run out of questions. These have to be capped at 60 seconds because of YouTube, so they're not going to be as in-depth as my full walkthroughs are, but they'll be more accurate in how I look at a question super quickly and pull the key parts out of it, and they'll give you a better sense of time management, since I know that's something a lot of people struggle with. Anyway, I'm super excited about this, so go check those out. The first few are already posted. Anyway, let me know what other content you'd like to see on the digital SAT. I want to try to help you guys out in any way that I can, and I want to make this test more accessible for people who don't have access to paid resources. Anyway, thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.